Hello and welcome to Breaking Even with Al Paton on your official SuperCoach AFL podcast feed, heading into round 10 and joining me for a new era in the Breaking Even podcast. Patch, welcome back.
Al, delighted to be here in this spacious new Not a Hotbox studio. This is incredible. You've pulled some strings.
Yeah, we have some influence here at SuperCoach, and Chloe Williams is here as well. Chloe, enjoying the new surrounds?
Yeah, good to be back. I'm glad to see a little bit of Carlton merch in the back shelves there. So, yes, always happy to be here.
Of course, like and subscribe on your podcast feeds. And if you're watching on Code Sports at YouTube, you will see what we have been referring to, which is a brand spanking new studio. So make sure you tune in to that each week. Of course, a reminder, SuperCoach Plus is where you get all your break-evens, live scores, all the stats you need to build your team, especially coming up to the buys. There's a buy planner on there as well. And there's, of course, a special offer at the moment, Code Sports subscription, $1 for the first month, and that includes SuperCoach Plus. So, and you get a whole bunch more great sport content with that, so highly recommend. But jumping straight into what is a huge week, I've got stacks of questions here, so we'll get to those very shortly. But first off, every Supercoach knows managing injuries is the key to success. This is the Injury Report, proudly brought to you by HBF, your health dream team. And as every week, there's some very interesting names on here. Lewis Hayes, who we thought might help us as a rookie from the Bombers. Terrible news for him doing his ACL in his first game, so he's out for the year, unfortunately. There was some talk about Nick Dacos having maybe some kind of pec issue with all the other issues that he had to deal with last Thursday night, but he's not on the Collingwood injury list, so hopefully that's good news for him. A player who has reappeared on the Richmond injury list is Josh Smiley. He's tweaked his hamstring again, so they're just going to sit him out for a few weeks, so he's not going to help us in terms of rookies, unfortunately, at least for a little while. And there's some injuries at Carlton with Lockie Cowan going to miss 3 weeks with a hammy. Mitch McGovern might miss. Blake Acres probably going to miss. So if you've got Matt Carroll on your bench, I wouldn't be trading him out.
Sean Darcy over in the West has knee soreness, but he's a test. He's not going to be out, not confirmed out at this stage. So Luke Jackson owners or Oscar McDonald traders, we're not getting any relief there. Mitch Nevitt has a foot injury, which Geelong have said is 1 to 2 weeks. Whether or not we trust Geelong, another matter. And Toby Bedford is a test against Freo. So Andy Brayshaw or Caleb Sarong owners, hold on to your hats.
I will be holding on to my hat. Dougal Howard, unfortunately, is out for St Kilda, 6 weeks with that hamstring. Jack Gunson and Lloyd Meek also being rested for the trip to Darwin. And luckily for all of us, Callum Mills is finally a test with that foot injury. So hopefully he is on the horizon soon.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to watch if he actually gets in and plays again. A bit of a forgotten man up in Sydney. That's a wrap on this week's Injury Report. Thanks to HBF. Make the smart move. Join HBF, your health dream team. Now, as I said, heaps of questions, so make sure you keep an eye out for the tweet every week and get those in. But we've got a couple of quick segments which we'll whip through before we get to those. Fallen Primo watch. I mean, a lot of these guys are on the trade radar this week or potentially coming up in the next couple of weeks, but there's plenty there with some sort of low break-evens now who have come down in price. But anyone jump off the page for you there, Patch?
There's been a lot of talk about kind of guys around the 500k mark. Phantom on the Lair had a lot of in-depth, but I'm too poor for a lot of those guys. And the guy I'm really looking at for either this week or next week is Shea Bolton at 422k mid forward.
You've jumped off the list here.
I'm well and truly off the list. I'm disappearing for 4 weeks after this episode. I'm going rogue today with some hot takes. Shea Bolton's scores this year are 57, 94, 87, 89, 115, 102, 5, and 114. And if you ignore the 5, that's a really good run of form. The 5 was in a full game. The 5 was not injury affected. The 5 was bad. But everything else there screams like a guy you can play at, your last primo, your
flex,
flex, your F7, M9. He's just kind of the perfect, you're talking about him in the preseason, Al. And you were right. But it's just, he's now 422k. He's someone I really like at value on top of guys like, Sinclair's the obvious buy this week. There's a few others that have been spoken about, but he's one I wanted to just throw out there, throw onto the radar, as long as you ignore the 5.
Well, we're talking about, a lot of questions and people looking to make this week what you call sort of a regulation upgrade to a Sinclair type, or maybe, some people want to grab a Lockie Whitfield now. He's, a tiny bit cheaper than he was. And then there's people even looking at, which we'll get to some questions later, someone like a Max Gawn or a Tristan Cherry who are like another 100, 150k on top of that. But the money is a real problem with our benches the way they are, the rookies the way they are.
The money. I need the money.
Do we have to start considering players like this at prices like that?
I would have said with Bolton as well, with Hayden Young going out now, he did have a record amount of CBAs last week. So I would say that would be something to watch as well.
There you go. Got all those numbers on Code Sports.
Did you have a fallen primo that you like, Chloe?
Well, we were talking about it off air a bit earlier. I've been looking at Jordan Clark myself, but Max Holmes is someone who is really interesting as well. He's 498K break even, sitting at 67 at the moment, and he does have a pretty good run coming up. I'm not sure whether I would jump on now or maybe wait a couple of weeks, but yeah, there's a lot of games at home there as well. So I don't know, he's a bit up and down, a bit of a roller coaster, which most of us have brought in Chad Warner, who himself is a bit of a roller coaster as well. He's been pretty good so far, but I do think that Max Holmes will finish as one of the top defenders, so it would be good to get him at such a great price. And it is some bargain buying under 500K, so hopefully, everyone has the money.
We were looking at his fixture, Geelong's fixture, before we came on, and that after the buy, especially like you said, maybe the next couple of weeks not so great, but now you can get him at that price. But their run home, they play Richmond twice in the last 6 rounds, including in the final round of the season when, who knows what state the Tigers will be in then. So, there's definitely some points on offer from Holmes and potentially other Geelong players in the run home. Quickly mentioning a couple of guys with a very high break-evens who we can look at soonish. I mean, Nick Dacos, a lot of us, I know a couple of us on the couch thought a couple of weeks ago, if we don't get him now, we're never going to get him. Traded out players that we maybe wish we still had. And now his break-evens all the way back up to 193.
Why you got to flame me like this?
Oh, no, I did exactly the same thing. So he's going to be, I don't know how cheap in a couple of weeks. If you don't have him, that could be a great buy. Wow, you've done well there.
Well,
and the other two big dogs, Zach Butters, break even up to 183, and the Bont is at 159. So those guys still extremely expensive, but they might start coming down in the next couple of weeks. Which,
or Butters could hit a break even of 189. So
what we want is them to score another, 95 this week, and then when the buys come around, it'll be perfect time to grab them. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, we'll be keeping an eye on those. Quick round of rookie roulette before we jump into the questions. Hopefully we don't have too many rookies that we have to play on field, but we might be bringing in rookies that we then have to field the way the trades are going, which is probably not exactly where you want to be at this time of the year. But Patch, if you had to field Caden Cleary or Elijah Hewitt this week, do you have a preference?
Yeah, I'm all in on the Elijah Hewitt train.
He wasn't great last week.
No, but they're back in Perth, and he's got two scores in the 90s in Perth, so far this season. So based on that and the fact that I like the cut of his jib, sure, come on down.
What do you think, Tom Gross or Hugh Boxall?
Well, I've got both these guys on my midfield bench. Gross was the sub last week. I think Hugh Boxall's a very high danger that he could be the sub. I'll probably back in Gross if he gets a start. Yeah. We were looking up the numbers. He scored about nearly 50 points in about 10 minutes on the ground the other day. And he could have added another 25 or something if he'd kicked that last goal. So, surely they give him a full game this week. And lastly, Patch, Sardell Hooley, very popular trade in this week, or potentially Matt Carroll if he comes back into the team. We mentioned Carlton have a few injuries. If you had to play one of those guys on field?
I like Sard.
Do you think he's an on-field option? Like if people are trading out, say, a Bice, who we know his break-even's gone up and his scoring hasn't been quite as good, but at least he's a safe, he's playing every week. He's probably not going to be the sub. Would you trust that El Hooley if you have to put him in that spot?
I think now that Harry Jones has gone down, that wing spot is his to lose. So until we see an indication that he is going to lose it, did nothing wrong against Sydney. We won, so I don't think there'll be any tweaks, at least this week. I'm backing him in, but Chloe might have a different opinion because we're on either sides of the nuff divide of this one.
Yeah, no, I think Matt Carroll will definitely come in. His last score was not necessarily, I think it was about 57 or something around about, so I don't know if you would necessarily want that score on field. I think potentially El Hooley could surpass that, but Essendon had a very high disposal count overall against Sydney. So I would just say most of their players, especially in the back half, just got a fair few possessions, which is why we probably saw inflated scores from someone like a Zach Reid. So I would say it's probably a 50-50 call.
Yeah, they've got,
you will make the wrong decision.
Yeah,
that's how rookie roulette works. All right, into the questions. Now, the first few are related to sort of defender upgrades because, as you mentioned on the layer on Monday, they did go through a lot of these names, and there's a lot of really good defenders whose prices have come down. Like Sinclair, obviously, is a classic example, but there's a few others as well, and people looking to upgrade potentially a Bice type. So names that people are throwing out: Holmes, Dale, or Ed Richards for the run home. There's just throwing a pod midfielder in there as well. Someone more can't decide between Dale and Holmes. Also thinking about potentially the round 12 bye where the Bulldogs have the bye in round 12, and that could be probably one of the trickiest rounds. Carlton, Port also off that week, North, I think. So, your Cheezle types are going to be missing. Someone's asking me, Naz or Sinclair as the two Saints. And then we've got Zorko thrown out there as well, and then some other value options, like a Steele or a Philippou. But in the defence, starting with those Saints, Naz or Sinclair, I've had Wanganeen-Milera since the start. He's been really good. I think his lowest score is 96 for the year, and we're just waiting for him to have that sort of 150 game. And I feel like it's not far away. They play the Eagles this week, but Sinclair's cheaper, like probably 20, 30 grand cheaper. He's averaging higher than Wanganeen-Milera. He did have a couple of weeks where his scoring wasn't as great, but bounced back last week. I think at that price, I'd be taking Jack Sinclair.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and we've spoken a bit about the cash problem this year.
Yes.
That 30K annoyingly could be a real big difference in next week after. So I'm going Sinclair.
Yeah, I'd been planning to bring in Sinclair this round for the last couple of weeks, and then randomly felt like I should bring in Jordan Clark, but I think I'll do the smart thing and I'll bring in Sinclair. Yeah. I just think at that price, it is a bit too good to pass up.
Yeah, I think Sinclair's the best option this week. I really like Jordan Clark. I think he's someone who I'm looking to bring in as someone who already owns Sinclair. Bailey Dale, I love his run.
Yeah, the next few weeks look amazing.
Yeah, he's got a great run, both in terms of opponents and plays Marvel. 5 of his next 6 or 7 at Marvel, and he loves playing at Marvel. So as someone who's never really been a big Bailey Dale owner, he's really high on my list. But again, if he doesn't work with your buys, you're going to have to...
Yeah, you want to count how many players you've got missing in round 12.
Yeah, you're going to have to hit that SuperCoach Plus button and do the buy planner, because if he doesn't work, then don't bring him in.
It's 5 of 7 at Marvel, and then you've got a Mars game straight after that too. So, but yeah, obviously with your buys, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if you're willing to take the risk,
a couple of days in the shuttle, but God, he
must like the shuttle bus ride.
He must love it. Yeah.
A couple of other names that Jason threw up: Zorko, who's obviously scored 166 last week, so his price started going back up, but he's still pretty cheap compared to what he started. Caleb Sarong, whose price has come way down, but you just want to see a game from him where he scores a 130, 140. I think he may have had one so far this year. Every other week it's like 102, 103. And then a couple of Saints. Chloe, what do you think of Jack Steele's snuck down under 500K? And Mateus Philippou played his first game for the year last week, scored 78, I think. He did kick a couple of goals, including a big one in the last quarter, which really helped his score. Didn't play any midfield time, but you'd think that they probably will put him into the midfield. Do you wait another game and then get him when he's on the bubble next week? I think he's going to be very popular in the 300K range. He's the sort of guy that maybe in the end he becomes your floating flex 23rd primo kind of guy. Any issue with potentially going early on him this week?
I think I will be personally going early on him this week, which could be a risk because I went early on him last year towards the end of the year when he was kind of breaking out and getting those hundreds, and then he did unfortunately get that hip injury. And I think at that point I had no trades left. So it was a bit of a disaster after feeling like a masterstroke. But at this point in time, I just need the extra money. Basically, I might considering downgrading Caleb Daniel to Philippou. And you could put him in flex. For now, he'll be in my forward line. But I've got a lot of forward mids, so I'll be able to move them around a little bit. I don't know whether he would finish in my on-field team or just as a bench option in my final team. But I think he's a pretty good option. The only way he probably wouldn't be in the team is if he got injured again, which fingers crossed won't happen. But to be able to get that score without any CBAs, the Eagles coming up, thinking that he'll be unleashed in the middle soon, I just think that it's a risk that I'm personally willing to take. So, I'm all in on Philippou.
I completely agree. I think he'll be someone that we'll basically want to have as a must-have. Whether or not you go this week with the Eagles, I'd be, if it wasn't for West Coast, I'd absolutely be advocating waiting one more week.
Yeah.
Price won't change. Get another look at him, but he could play out of the square and kick 5 against the Eagles. So I think we'll all be getting him. Whether or not you get him this week or next week will be kind of a decision you have to make. But in terms of the ranking those players that David asked for, no, was it David?
Jason
asked for. I think Sinclair's a clear number 1. Dane Zorko does have to be number 2, just purely based on form and proving me wrong all season. I'm still worried about Kitty Coleman coming back, but who knows when
Might
that
be
could be.
This week.
I like Jack Steele value-wise. He's had 3 tons in a row, got his tackling back, got his mojo back. Probably won't be that late top 8 mid, but 10 to 15 at that value I think is very good buying if you need a midfielder. Sarong kind of needs to turn it around a bit, but so, at this stage I'd probably be taking Philippou ahead of Sarong. But
Yeah,
I think we'll all be jumping on Philippou this week or next week. Whether or not you make that call this week or next week is based on if you want to trade out Flynn or if you want to, feel like you need to trade out Caleb Daniel or, team dependent, I think.
Yeah,
in a lot of
it'd be
instances.
amazing if you could upgrade a rookie to Philippou, like get a,
Yeah.
someone who's 250k, just
Hayden Cleary or someone like that.
yeah,
maybe,
that's right. And then you've got
Yeah.
someone who you can actually play on field. But
Yeah.
like you said, probably what most people will be doing, and I potentially will do as well, is to come down to him from a Daniel because we need that cash.
Yeah, a Matt Flynn option as well is on the table.
Yeah, that's right. You could chuck him in flex. Okay, we'll whip through a few others. David, who has won Supercoach NBL before and does very well in all the formats, but he's thrown out John Noble as a a pod option, averaging 99. At the start of the year, I was really keen on Dan Rioli because I thought he'd just have a great role at Gold Coast, and he's been okay, but Noble's really the one who I was sort of like to say I was right about the idea of the role there, but Noble's the one who's really taken most of the points. But at 504k,
the value's still kind of there, but it's not quite I love him as a shout. I picked him off the waiver wires in draft early
say,
on.
good
pick.
draft option.
So shout out to Lek Dog who picked him up in round 1 or 2
Yeah, he was all over him.
the
Yep.
waiver wire buy. Big John Noble fan.
He's gotten
Lek
5
Dog.
tons in a row.
yeah, well,
He's
recently,
good.
yeah.
I think he's a decent buy. I think he's a decent pod, but I think we've seen what he can do. I don't think he'll get too much
I agree.
beyond what we'll do. From the Suns, Noah Anderson is also 526k with a low score of 89.
yeah, he's averaging like 108 or something.
Yeah, he's thrown the shackles off. Last year he was incredible at home and terrible away, and he's now just evened it out.
And he's got a lot of home games coming up eventually.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, certainly over the
Post-buy
buys,
sort of time,
I think
yeah.
he's one to keep in mind. Yeah,
so I've got him in, but one to look at as well
Great
in
run
that
home
value prospect.
Blair asks, has to trade one of Clayton Oliver or Matt Flynn. Chloe?
Well, I've already traded Clayton Oliver and I still have Matt Flynn, so I guess I would have to say trade Oliver.
Did he do a tagging job or something last
Yeah,
week?
he was
did,
tagging
yeah.
John Newcomb, which I love that he's being selfless. I love that for him and the team. And
And they're playing Brisbane this week, so what, he's going to just kill Lockie Neal for us again?
Oh, Clary, don't. There's no room for sentimentality, and Clayton's got to go,
I would say
guess.
that Flynn's getting, he's on the chopping block as well,
He's
so it
so
is a bit of a
close.
50-50,
Yeah.
but you could I would say you could get a little bit more out of Flynn for hopefully one more week. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, but he does come up against Tristan Cherry. Oh, wait, no, he doesn't come up against Tristan.
no.
Rowan Marshall this week.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's not too bad.
That's
And
not
last
too
week,
bad.
Bailey Williams came in, so they played 2 rucks, the Eagles, but Williams played mainly as a forward. It didn't really affect
Yeah.
Flynn's ruck time, even though his score was pretty horrible until 3/4 time, but he was really good in the last quarter. So, I think I can definitely... I don't think Flynn's going to lose any money. He
Well,
might
his break-even is
hopefully make a bit more.
97, so
maybe
he
will
might
lose
lose a little bit, but I think,
He's going for that ton.
yeah.
It's the time.
Against St Kilda, yeah, it's doable.
But, yeah. I'm trading Oliver first.
What about keeping, if you had to keep one of Caleb Daniel or Levi Ashcroft? Hayden asking. I think for me it's pretty clearly keeping Levi.
Yeah.
Just based on the break-evens. Like his break-even's 50, so he should easily get that and make a little bit more money. Daniel's break-even is 121, so that's what's making me think about, I think he could actually score okay. They play Richmond this week, who traditionally give up a lot of points to sort of halfbacks. Daniel, I hope he wouldn't drop another 50. He might get 80 points or something out of him, which isn't terrible, but he's going to lose money. And if you think he's not going to be in your final team, and you're probably looking at that round 12 bye thinking I might want to move on a North player or a Carlton player before then, maybe do it now, and at least you get, rather than trading him in 2 weeks and getting 30 grand less for him, like you say, cash is going to be so important. Maybe now's the time to pull the trigger.
Yeah, I think if you have to trade one of those two, you're probably trading Daniel purely from a cash perspective, and Levi could well outscore him in the next couple of weeks anyway. But yeah, I think you should really be trying to get your your rookies off field. I've been saying it all year. I'll keep saying it till the cows come home. I think Daniel's a luxury upgrade that we might not have the cash or trades for this year. And if he's still playing, I am still going to have him in my side.
If he's still playing.
Well, yeah, that's the if that is getting larger and larger each week.
I hadn't actually watched him. I hadn't watched too many of his games closely just to watch him, but I was pretty invested in that draw on the weekend. So
We love a draw.
I didn't exactly love what I saw though. But I had already considered trading him out last week early. So that's why I'm just all aboard trading him out this week personally. I just don't think that he will finish obviously we all thought he would, but I don't think that he will finish as a top forward just with all the other people we've been able to who have emerged with DPP. So thanks to the DPPs. But
I suppose one thing to factor in, as Pat, you touched on there, is that you look at your team, and I was looking at it during the week doing a little bit of maths and thinking, okay, well, in my finished team, full primo team that we all dream of, my back line I need another 2 there, my midfield I need another 3 there, rucks ideally I'd get Gawn at some stage, and then maybe a couple more in the forwards, and then you add them all up and think, well, hang on, that's about another 8 upgrades I need to make. That's at least 2 trades for each. How many trades do I have left?
Yeah, how many rookies are making the money to do the upgrades?
So someone like, I was looking at an Adam Chera and like, he's losing a little bit of money. His scores the last few weeks haven't been amazing. Do I try and trade him? But then I'm thinking, if I traded him to one stage, I was looking at Peatling, thinking he's got a great run, he could make me some money. But the chances of then me being able to trade Peatling out at the end of that run are very slim. I think I would be probably stuck with him. So I think in the end of the day, if Adam Chera ends up being my M8 or something, I could live with that. I'd rather have him than probably Philippou or someone on field in that spot. So yeah, we might not get to upgrade everybody that we want to.
No.
Yeah, that's true.
And the people have been looking at Changkuoth Jiath this week as well.
Yeah, he's a good example.
It's exact same boat, I think, where, if you bring him in, be prepared to keep him.
Yeah, well, because I was looking at him for about 5 minutes for some cash gen and then got talked out of it by our trusted Hawthorn supporters here at the office. But I just think that when you do make a move like that, which I guess I should consider with the whole Daniel to Philippou move. I would be happy to keep Philippou is the main thing, but it's more so if you're getting cash gen, that's great, but then it does involve 2 trades to then be able to bank the cash and use it to buy someone else. So there's probably no point making a move like that if you don't get the secondary option of making that upgrade and you're just stuck with them as probably a bit of a disaster.
Yeah, I was talking to a good friend, Tim Mitchell, the other day, who's we know likes to go hard with his trades, and he was adding up how many trades he's used so far. And then if you think over the weeks of the buys, you get 3 trades per week, and we've got like 5 buy weeks or something this week. So, and by the time he finished, by the end of the buys, he calculated that he'd be at -5 trades.
Wow.
That's the perks of working here. You can we go into negative trades. We don't, but I wish we did.
Buy some trades for next year. That could be a
feature
we could bring in.
How is everyone going in the way of boosts at the moment?
I've
got 2 left, but
same.
Yeah, I think ideally the trades I want to make now is down 2 rookie downgrades and then 1 premium upgrade, but there's just not, the rookies aren't there. So I'm sort of thinking, am I even going to end up using them?
Yeah, I've got 2 left, and we'll hold them until I have a really valid reason to use them.
I've got 2. I'll probably use one this week, though. So.
I'm tempted to use one this week. We'll see.
A couple more Flynn questions while we're talking about him. Clayton wants to know any chance of him becoming DPP now that Bay Wims came into the side. I looked up those numbers. Flynn is at 7% forward time, so that's seeming unlikely.
He's close. He's close. He's close to that 35%.
So the new DPPs come in after round 11, and we've got all the numbers for you. Can look up every player. If you go to your news tab on SuperCoach app or Code Sports, all your platforms. Connor wants to know Finn and Bice to Sinclair and Al Hawley. Is it worth also trading Daniel to Rosie this week ahead of him getting DPP, talking about DPPs? I think Rosie is still a great buy given that, and especially if you were playing Al Hawley on field, you could maybe get away with that for a couple of weeks and then just slide Rosie back into your back line.
Yep, agreed. I reckon that boost is fine. Like those moves.
Sounds good to me.
Like that. Now, a couple of Giants people asking about Luke, thoughts on Lockie Ash and Tom Green. And Supercoach Dog wants to know, is Tom Green a good option? He is $544K. Again, he's lost a little bit of money off his starting price despite averaging 109. So I think he's
good
a really
at football.
Good boy. Yeah.
He's good at football, good at Supercoach.
Lockie Ash, $571K. When you've got all these other discounted options in defence, I think I'd take them ahead of Ash, although he has been amazing.
Yep. Too expensive.
Great. All right, we can move on quickly. Oh, we've got a Peatling question here. Question, CJ or Peatling, you have to choose one.
Don't.
Shea Bolton.
I have been a Peatling fan, but I just think, unfortunately, the ship has sailed at this point. Because like you said, you'd probably be moving someone like a Chera, and it's just a bit too sideways for me for this time of year. I've learnt my lesson going sideways too many times, but his run is great, and not having Crouch there at the moment has been really beneficial. I have him in draft, so that's been a win for me, but yeah, I don't know.
If you go back and do it 3 weeks ago when he was 100 grand cheaper and our teams looked a bit different, that would have been a great move.
Yeah, it would have been a good move. But now I don't like, Crouch should be back at some point. Not ideal. CJ was spoken about. I reckon he's 100K more expensive, as spoken about on the Lair this week, that, Flynn and Marich were 250 odd K. 380K, that's not really a money-making grab. He's not going to be a top.
Peatling's like 450 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
talking about CJ, yeah.
Yeah, CJ's not going to be, 380, 390. He's not going to make you the cash you want from a cash move. He's not going to score the points. I genuinely would either go Philippou this week or Filippo or Shea Bolton. They're my two picks instead.
But Shea Bolton, what's his break even? Because I feel like he was a target for next week. Almost.
Yes, he's still got a break even of 130. So you could wait. But
interesting.
Yeah.
Now, Nick has got a question. I'm not sure if this is Tim's burner account, but asking, can you trade Zach Reid back in? He did score 130 last week. If you were looking for a keeper in defence at 382K, that's a good price. But, as we were just discussing, if you bring him back in, you're probably committed to holding on to him for the entire year. Is that a viable strategy, even for those of us who started him?
I don't love it. I don't think Reid will probably slow up a little bit. He probably won't be someone we'll want on field in our final teams. I probably wouldn't. Yeah, I think you're better off downgrading or upgrading and,
If you're looking for someone in the 300K range, I think we all like Philippou.
Yeah.
Can sort of get you out of jail in a few different positions, use some DPP work. Cam says, hey, Breaking Even team, love your work. Thank you, Cam. We always appreciate those questions always get a run.
We love your work, Cam. Thank you for asking the question.
He's asking, is Clay Hall going to get a game? Would you sell him, leaving next to $0 next week, or sell Kako, which would leave him 50Ks in the bank, which could help with his trades next week? Clay Hall, I did look it up. He had 30 disposals in the waffle. I don't know what's happening with West Coast selection, but I don't have any issue with trading Kako either. I think now's a good time to move him on.
Yep, I always prefer trading a dead rookie compared to a one that's still playing and still making, still scoring points. That spike game's still coming, I'm telling you. I'd be trading. If Hall's not named, then I'd be trading him. But I don't know, you can trade Kako as well.
Yeah, I guess it depends when you've got how many dead rookies you've got as well, because, Clay Hall, he could come back, but he is starting to look a bit more
Hall
like
and,
a dead rookie.
Harry Boyd are his only dead rookie, so that's
pretty good. You could almost, it depends kind of what other trades you're doing, I guess, but you could almost leave it. Like, I don't mind having one maybe, and kind of everyone has Harry Boyd, but
and he'd be
if you have the chance to upgrade him, I would, but I think it was Sean Manor that I had on my bench last year, and he kind of just went in and out of the team.
Yeah.
Came back in round 17 good.
Clay Hall might help you at the end of the year and you could get your final upgrade from him. But if you don't have other dead rookies, but if you're starting to really build a collection of dead rookies, then you need to upgrade a few.
Yeah.
But yeah,
good shout.
Billy asking, is it fine to play Sinclair in the mids at least until the buys? And I think yes. I don't have an issue with that at all.
Yep, agreed.
Especially if it means you can get him at this price, then I would say go for it.
And the mids, it's still pretty murky what's going on in there,
a bit
especially
weird,
if we want to try and get a Bonta and or a Butters or something at some stage. Steele's a good price. Dawson's still cheapish, but it's sort of hard to find obvious picks in there. So I'm fine with having Jack Sinclair sitting there for a while, especially as you say through to the buys, and we can sort of shuffle things around. Hando is ranked 3K, so he's doing very well, but he's got no cash generation and no good rookies this week. I think we can all sit in that same boat. But he feels like he's a primo behind everyone else. Would you trade Elijah Hewitt and Caden Cleary to Philippou and Kitty Coleman if he's named this week?
I probably wouldn't go early on the both of them, especially Kitty, considering he hasn't even played a game yet. But Philippou, yes, but Kitty, I wouldn't go this early. Even I wouldn't go this early, and I do like to go early on players. So
Yeah, I agree with that. And Cleary and Hewitt, as you say, Hewitt had a down game last week, but those are guys who can score an 80 or a 90 on their day. We're pretty confident they're playing each week. Unlikely to be the sub. I know Hewitt has been. But, Yeah, I just don't feel there's that many of those rookies left. Like certainly not in my team.
If they're playing, I just feel like at this point, it's important to keep the guys who are playing.
Christian Moraes or someone, or Tom Gross on the bench who are subs and potentially losing money. So
if you can do Cleary to Philippou, go for it. I think that's good. Agree on Kitty.
One quick one for you, Patch. I think you'll be able to answer this easily. Ollie, thoughts on Dunkley?
Yes.
Good.
Yep.
Regret. I wish I'd bought him in instead of Nick Dacos, but here we are.
Yeah, you have been mentioning him a few times, but that's the way of these
real big on
content
Josh
creation.
I was looking at Dunkley last week, actually, but I just need to fix my backline first.
Yeah, I need to fix a lot of things first.
Fair enough, but he's good buying.
Yeah.
Dunkley and Tom Green, I feel like, are the ones who will kind of go under the radar.
Yeah.
And
they're just like
Jack
110.
Steele or someone, but
Like he gets sucked into, we'll get Sarong because he can go 150, but if you just get the guy.
Where's the 150?
Yeah.
Dunkley can go 180.
He can.
We saw it in round one. Yeah. He's just finished. He's good. I just think he's neat.
He is. J-Rod saying swallowing his pride and bringing JHF back in. I think that's a good move. I'm definitely planning on doing that, probably after his bye, because he has that tricky round 12 bye. And I think he's gone up 1K or something since the start of the year, so I feel vindicated that I was sort of right in saying that, I don't think he's going to get out of control price-wise, but the other aspects of that trade haven't really worked out for me. But, I think he's definitely going to be in that top 6, sort of top 8 forwards at the end of the year, so we will want him. Try and get through a couple of quick ones to finish off. Connor, one boost left. Is it better to use it and bring in an extra primo this week, or somehow find more than one rookie and start building a chest for Bont and Butters? I mean, I think, I've sort of mentioned this, that I think that would be amazing if we had 2 decent rookies, bring them both in, start piling up that cash. But have you seen any rookies that we could look at?
No, I can't see them anywhere in here in our new studio.
Sam Doherty's over there on the shelf, but unfortunately he's not a rookie. So
no, he's also playing
I can't see any more.
I mean, we haven't really mentioned, who our downgrade targets are this week. When we like Sardell Hooley, he's gone up maybe 20K because he was a sub a few times, but now, still gettable around that 150 mark. Is there anyone else? Would you trust a Hugh Boxall if you don't have him? He's on the bubble. Joe Fonte, the
Lair kind of went through it. No, absolutely not.
I think they did do a good run through on the Lair, but for me personally, probably I went early on Boxall, which is a bit regrettable, but I've got Warner, so that was the main point of it all. I was looking at Fonte, didn't really work out, so I'm glad I didn't also go early on him, but Sardell Hawley, or even I was kind of looking at an inflated Tom Gross just because he's a bit more than Al Hawley, maybe about 20K more, I think, but I just thought a mid-roll is obviously ideal. Compared to a wing roll. Well, in my opinion anyway, I would just like to have a mid there, but is he going to play? Who knows? So, yeah.
What did you think of Arthur Day Wicks on debut? 99K?
I like the cut of his jib, but goodness me, I'm not trading him in early.
He's got about 30.
See how he goes again next week. Maybe he could be the sub out candidate as well. Don't love him from a Supercoach perspective.
I guess someone like him as well, obviously there's the injury crisis, but with the mid-season draft coming up, it's like, do you think that he will still be in the team if you're able to pick a few people up? Or
it depends on, maybe we'll just pick tall players. That's another hour podcast.
Hopefully the mid-season draft can save us.
To answer Connor's question though, I think in lieu of those rookies being really good this week, I probably wouldn't be doing a double downgrade to try and save for Bont and Butters as much as I'd like to keep as much cash in the bank for when that happens. I think you'd probably be better adding the cheaper primos, the value primos at this stage than double downgrading for guys that might disappear really quickly.
So say like a Shea Bolton?
Who could possibly say? I could say.
All right, let's finish off with a few questions. Very interesting one at the end here about the rucks. And it's really all boils down to the fact that you've got 2 ruckmen, Gawn and Tristan Cherry, who are both averaging about 160 at the moment. Yep. And then it's a bit of a drop-off to the next one by about 50-something points. Just down a little bit. I've got TDK, he's averaging 107, I think, which is fine.
All of a sudden that feels really disappointing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just such a huge gap each week that you feel like you're just giving up all these points. But, of course, to make a trade, you've got to find 150,000, and we're just talking about cash not really existing. Lincoln saying TDK to Cherry, or do you just, make your upgrades everywhere else and somehow hope they come back down? I don't know. Daniel, if you have Gawn and TDK, is it worth getting Cherry in at all costs? I'm ranked in the top 300 and can't risk the antipod anymore. I think
how are you in the top 300 without Max Gawn? That's
incredible.
incredible.
Can I make a point about this actually? the fact that he's in the top 300, I think really speaks to the fact that obviously you're looking every week at the scores and thinking, oh, I'm missing out on all these points. But you've used that money elsewhere where you're getting probably better points than people with all three have been getting in other positions. So I feel like for a while it's kind of worked out where even though Gawn has been going large or Cherry's been going large, if you don't have them, you've spent that money elsewhere where you've been able to get more points across the field. But getting to this time of year, getting towards the end of the year, you do have to find a way to get them all in. But you can get to the top 300 without one of them. So obviously you sit there thinking, oh, I must get this person in at all costs. But I think it is, you do have to factor in, you're getting these points elsewhere with the money. Like everyone obviously starts with the same money. Obviously people generate more cash than other people. But if you've generated some more cash and you've got points on field from, I don't know, someone like a Flynn or somewhere, like at the end of the day, Flynn got 80. It wasn't the best, but if you have a worse rookie in that position.
Yeah, like if you've got Flynn at 80 instead of Henry Huswaite on field.
Exactly,
that's better.
And once you add up a couple of those scenarios, you know, you can still get decent scores if your team is a bit more balanced, is essentially what I'm trying to say.
Do you feel like at some point, like we talk about finished teams?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, yeah.
We talk about finished teams every year, and then I get to the end of the year and I'm like, what the hell is that? There's Mason Wood there. How did that happen?
I mean, ideally we want Gawn and Cherry, don't we, in a finished teams? I was going to say, I think ownership stats, Cherry's in about 85% of the top 5% of teams, but Gawn's only in about 50%.
Yeah. I'm very mad at myself for not sticking to my guns and not starting Tom de Koning and starting Max Gawn.
That's what we
I was doing that at one point as well.
Anyway.
So the last question is from some guy called Patch here, asking the smart and handsome panel, how am I supposed to make any money in this economy? How am I supposed to buy a house, i.e. Max Gawn, without help from the bank of mum and dad, i.e. culling every single one of my rookies?
What an incredible question. What an incredible question.
I mean, I think, oh man, I don't know. Because I've played around with trades and using a boost this week to turn TDK into Gawn. Because
how's that gone for you? How does that make your team look?
Well, it means I'd have to play Sardell Hawley on field. It means getting rid of Caden Cleary. But I feel like I could do it.
Yeah, I feel like it's doable, but it's one
Cherry's
of those things where you got to get the timing right, and you obviously can't tell now whether you're getting the timing right. You just have to trade and hope. But yeah. Cherry's
the one that if you don't have him, I think it's going to be almost impossible to get him. His break even is 71, and he's playing Richmond, who do traditionally
a few points.
Yeah.
Couple.
He scored 144 last time he played them, which would actually be a bit of a down game compared to his recent form.
Yeah.
Oh, man. This is a really hard question to answer.
It is. I think...
Why would someone submit a question like this?
Why would someone submit a question like that? Gosh. I think it's just... I think it's kind of the last upgrade you'll have to do in terms of if you're going Tom de Koning to Tristan Cherry, that is the definition of a luxury trade. Yeah. And if it is putting another rookie on field, if you're trading Caleb Daniel down to a rookie or someone, it doesn't really, it improves your team by 30 points a game, maybe like 50 if you get a captaincy.
That's what I was trying to say with the overall points improvement.
You've really got to make sure you're improving your team overall. You're not undercutting yourself elsewhere. And to the point where I almost think, and this is a dumb idea, but I'm like...
Well, you're about to fly overseas, so it's...
Yeah, I'm about to fly overseas, so direct all hate to Al. But this is an idea that won't work for most people, will possibly backfire, but I think there's a world where you trade Max Gawn out.
Yes, maybe. My cousin, shout out Corey if you're listening, was explaining this to me the other day, also an Essendon supporter, so that's good, was floating the idea to me. He has Max Gawn and he thought, if I trade him out, I can get some value primos, kind of make the money back in a way and trade him back in at a lower price eventually.
Yep. Exactly. He's nearly 800K.
Yeah, you could.
You trade him down to, say you've got...
Shea Bolton and Filippo. That's like a roundabout. But we won't go on that tangent.
Say you've got the three big rucks, you trade Max Gawn, from your flex down to, say, Jack Sinclair.
Oh,
520K. Max Gawn is nearly 8. He's 720K. You've got $200,000 towards your next upgrade, which you can basically do this week if you've got someone at 300K, a rookie that you can then trade out. So you get, two rookies.
Kako becomes a primo.
Yeah, two premiums in. Max Gawn is out. You're hopefully not, you're hopefully making more than that, and then you're more importantly, not culling guys like Levi Ashcroft early. You're not culling, maybe Riley Bass can stick around a bit longer. People who might be looking at Zach Reid and going, he's my only ticket to a Bont. You can keep him for a bit longer.
Yeah.
You can save that money for a Bont or a Butters. There's, a world where trading Max Gawn out and waiting for his price to dip can come really good. And, a guy John Bruin, who won SuperCoach years and years ago.
The Bruin manoeuvre.
Bruin manoeuvre with Travis Cloak. Famously, this could be the Bruin manoeuvre.
I think it could be, honestly. I actually
of 2025.
It's a risk, but it's...
But I did look at his Max Gawn's projected scores for the rest of the season. So he's projected to score 106 this week, and then 187, 155, 153, 171, all the way down for the rest of the season. Outside of that projected 106, he's projected to go under 150 twice. And those two are 142 and 147. Like, he's projected to average...
Well, there's a
more than
reason why
anyone's
he's so
ever averaged.
expensive.
Yes, there's a reason why he's so expensive. And then you add in, captaincy and other bits and bobs. So is it a good idea? No. Is it something that might come back to bite you? Yes. Is it worth considering? I think so. But I think for most people, it's maybe not a good idea. I just wanted to throw it out.
If you do it, send us a message, definitely, so we can track your progress.
Yes, please do.
Definitely.
I think if you're going overseas, that's exactly the time to do something like this.
Do it and throw your phone in the ocean.
Exactly.
Yeah. Text me on and then reads Al's phone number out.
I will just leave it with when I made all those moves, and the sort of elephant in the room that I'm just sort of trying not to look at this stage is that I've still got Henry Huswaite at M8, I think, on field. And that could become a problem very quickly. And like if I've got 200k spare that I can turn TDK into Gawn, am I better off just using that money to turn Christian Moraes into Filippo or something like that? Like someone I can actually play on field.
Yes.
Rather than having to field a Huswaite or, one of those rookies that are very questionable, shall we say.
Yeah, I think so.
I would say yes.
Yeah. And did we answer the right question? Did we
Well, I think in the end we said...
Because if the answer is trade Max Gawn out, that feels like a really unsatisfying answer.
The original question was if you have Gawn and TDK.
Cherry, and the answer is trade out Gawn. Is that what we're saying?
Yes, that's what that's the official advice of SuperCoach.
Is it worth getting Cherry in at all costs? So it was actually Cherry that we were supposed to.
Well, I think there's also like a lot of people trying to get Max Gawn in.
Yeah, it's the same.
I think the same answer is it's too much money.
It is.
And it's just...
I probably wouldn't be trading out Cherry, though, the way he's going. If you're going to trade one and try that manoeuvre,
you'd want
Gawn,
as much cash as possible.
Yeah.
So, if that's Cherry in 3 weeks, maybe, I don't know.
And I feel like if you're looking at going TDK to Cherry as well, like it really is dependent on whether you also have Gawn, which I presume if you're looking at going TDK to Cherry, you have Gawn. I'm just going to assume that.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. The rucks suck. That's why it's set and forget every year, and then you pick the 2 best ones, and
no Flynn
a lot of
R2?
us missed. I don't think so.
Flynn R3.
I don't think so. Who would do that, Chloe? Who would do Flynn at R2?
You'd have to be pretty
Well,
silly.
we might... his name just briefly got a fleeting mention there. They did talk about him on the lead, but we might have another bargain ruckman we can talk about next week just to make it interesting. But Patch won't be here to talk about it as much as he loves talking rucks in SuperCoach.
Don't do it.
I'm going to do it.
Forget.
I'm going to do it.
Do it
Patch,
at R3.
Enjoy your overseas jaunt.
I will. I'll be sunning it up and mucking up my trades for 4 weeks.
And rolling lockouts and things, time zones.
It'll be fine. What's the worst that could happen?
Chloe, thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for having me here.
Been a pleasure. We've enjoyed the new surrounds. Hope you've enjoyed it as well. Good luck with your trades and tune in for the live team show at 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, where we'll find out who's dropped and who's in and what moves we can make at the last minute in SuperCoach. And we'll catch you again soon.